everybody, this is Lisa Cobb with Homesteaders Classroom, and as promised I am fixing to make up some sourdough cinnamon rolls for my Bible study class tonight. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I have my recipe right here, and so I'll just do a quick rundown of this recipe. It's a very simple one, doesn't take a whole lot of time to make, and there's more waiting than it will be mixing. So the very first thing we're going to do is we are going to heat up this 1.5 cup of milk, which I should have already done, but I'm just going to pop it in the microwave. I'm sorry I'm out of the camera. So I'm just going to do it for about 25 seconds, and then I'm going to add up my yeast to that and my sugar. So I have 1 tablespoon of yeast, and I have 1/2 cup of sugar right here that I'm gonna add to that. Now, normally you can let it sit for like 15 minutes and let the yeast kind of bubble up, but I'm adding in some sourdough starter. Now, this sourdough starter or sourdough discard, I have not fed this starter. It came fresh out of the fridge this morning, and as you can see, it's a very happy little starter. It's already bubbling, but once I put it in my dough today, then I'll go ahead and feed it, and then we'll be able to make bread. So I'm going to grab this milk. And I'm just going to test it and make sure it's not too warm with my finger, because you know, your hands are your best tools. So I want that just a little bit warmer, so I'm going to go ahead and pop it back in there for another 10 seconds. So it'll be about 40 seconds total because it was very cold. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and pour about 1/4 cup of my sourdough discard into my bowl right here. Now, this sourdough discard or sourdough starter has been sitting in my refrigerator for a good little while. It's just been one that I've had hanging out. I have another one that sits in my windowsill over here that I use most of the time, but I needed to go ahead and bring this one out and feed it. So it's got a little bit of alcohol content on it. That's okay. I'm just going to stir it in and keep on going. So I'm going to go ahead and put that sourdough discard right here in my bowl. Just like that. Try to get out all the goodness. So sourdough discard, let me grab that milk really quick, and I'll talk while I'm grabbing. Sourdough in itself is really good because of all of the digestive enzymes you get, the probiotics you get. Anything that ferments is really, really good and healthy for your gut. I'm going to go ahead and add 1 tablespoon of yeast to my milk. Let me just check it and make sure it's not too warm. It's perfect. So I'm going to just add that right in there and go ahead and stir that in and just let it get good in there. And then I'm going to add it on top of my discard, and I'll mix that up just a little bit. So this is almost like a dump and mix recipe. So I'm just going to add all of that right into this bowl right here. Stir it up a little bit. Give it a little stir. Now, if you're concerned about your yeast, do let it sit for that 10 to 15 minutes and make sure that you're going to get some really good foamy yeast on there. But I know my yeast is good. I've been using it, and I keep my yeast in the freezer because I do use active yeast. You can use rapid rise. And I'm going to go ahead and mix in my sugar. And that is a 1/2 cup of sugar, because we are making cinnamon rolls, so we want them to be sweet. Alrighty, so there's that. Now, this is where it starts to get interesting. I'm going to go ahead and add in my 6 tablespoons of melted butter. I've already, it's come to room temperature. So I'm going to add that right in. I'm also going to add in 2 farm fresh eggs from my chickens. 1, 2. And I'm going to add in 5 cups of all-purpose flour. Now you can use bread flour. That's my unbleached flour that I use to feed my starter. So I don't always use it. And these cinnamon rolls, you can do whatever you want to use. So you can use, as long as it's all-purpose or bread flour. You don't want to use self-rising. So I'm going to measure out 5 cups. And whenever you measure this out, use a spoon. Don't just scoop because your measurements will be off. So I'm going to do 5 cups of all-purpose flour. And this is a 4-cup measuring cup. So 4 cups going straight in there, and then I'll add 1 more cup. And just like that, we got 1 cup more. And I'll set this off to the side. Now, here comes the surprise. Potato flakes. We are using 1/2 cup of potato flakes straight in there on top of that flour. And then we are going to use 1 teaspoon of salt. And sometimes you may be making a bigger batch, so you can just add a little bit more. I felt like this was just a tiny bit more, so I'm just going to add a little more salt. It doesn't hurt anything to add a little bit more salt to that. I'm going to set this starter over here and go ahead and cover it up. So, and now it just gets really simple from here. Everything's in your bowl, and you can take your Danish whisk. This can be done in your KitchenAid mixer, or it can just be done with your hands because your hands are your best tools. So I'm just going to mix this right up just like this. And once it gets too hard to mix with my Danish whisk, if it gets too hard to mix with my Danish whisk, then I'll use my hands. But you do need this dough mixed really, really well. Now, if your dough feels too thick and hard to mix, or you feel like there's just too much flour, you can add a little bit more milk or a little bit warm water. If it's too wet, you can always add a little bit more flour. So it's real easy to adjust. You don't have to stress it. Just do what you feel is necessary. So I'm gonna try to get all that dough off. Sometimes I just think it's not worth using the whisk. Sometimes I feel like just go ahead and get in there with your hands, or let your dough hook on your mixer do the hard work. So I'm just going to get in there with my hands just like this, and just mix it and mix it and mix it. Now, like I said, I'm making these tonight for my Bible study group, and I know they're going to enjoy it. But what do you like with your cinnamon rolls? Do you like to have them for breakfast? Do you like to have them as a snack? Do you like to have them with milk or with coffee? And, you know, I like all of the above. So, now one thing about this recipe that I also like, it's very versatile. You can add cream cheese to your icing when you finish them. You can make them orange, you can make them maple, you can just have them plain with no icing. You can just glaze them, which is what I'm going to do today. I'm just going to glaze them. So my dough is starting to really get mixed up in there, starting to really come together and feel good. And I'm probably just going to throw it out here on this countertop and really get in there and mix it up just like this. It does take a little bit of time to get it to come all together, and make it really good. And see how it's sticky a little bit? You don't want sticky. You want it to be really nice, a nice dough ball. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little bit of all-purpose flour on here. That's why I left my spoon in there. And I'm just gonna sprinkle my top right there. And now I can really get in there and knead this dough. And once this dough is good and kneaded, all I'm gonna do is throw it back in this bowl and let it rise for 90 minutes. So after it rises, I will come back, we will roll it out, add our cinnamon sugar in there, and make up the cinnamon rolls. So I'll be back in just a little bit.